Welcome to the Fat Cats Rugby Podcast, another week of candid rugby conversations. Last week we were at the beautiful grounds of Kings Park Arena for a conversation with Nathan Wambali about the origin of the rugby chill. But today we are back to our home, the Fred and Winnie B&B, and myself, Ruben Kihumuro, Edwin Wawire. We're here. Edwin, how are you?
It's been a while.
Yeah, been a minute. You were MIA last week. You're back today. But before we get into any particular conversations, I'd just like to introduce our guests. We normally say we have a couple of distinguished guests, but today we have royalty, I should say, rugby royalty to be precise. I don't know who to start with, but let me start, I think, with the person that's just diagonally opposite me, Allan Musoke. Recently, in a column, I think it was a column on TV, Herbert Wafula, a man who we have had here, had proclaimed you the GOAT of Uganda rugby. I don't know how that makes you feel, but Allan Musoke has played for the Rugby Crane 7s and 15s. He has been a man that has been a loyal servant of Cops. I was going to say Betway Cops, but you played, I think it was still called Mango. For those people who
even underwriter. I was going to the underwriter days.
Yes. And there was underwriter.
East African underwriters.
Wow.
Yes.
How old are you, Allan? Anyway, welcome to the podcast, Allan.
Thank you so much, Ruben, and thank you so much for having me, Edwin, as well. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
And it's good to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you. And the other royalty in the house is Brian Tabaruka. And many say he is one of the most elegant rugby players that has ever graced the pitch in the way he plays. He doesn't look like he's using a lot of energy, but somehow he always beats his defenders. A man that has also played for the nation, and he has played for the Heathens. I don't know if I've missed anything in between there that you feel needs to be added.
No, sir.
But he's still playing.
Yes, he seems to unretire, try to coach a bit, then unretire. There's something about being on that pitch that's so addictive. I don't know if you're going to see Edwin come back. This week, there was something that surfaced about a picture of him trying to tackle Chisanga. That was Independence Cup 2010, when he hadn't yet discovered KFC and and whatever else he has been eating.
Success rate.
Yeah. But anyway, getting into the gist of why we have two legendary gentlemen here. 2007, myself and Edwin were still in high school, while you guys were being really written about at the back of newspapers and maybe getting TV interviews at the time for the things that you guys were doing. And one of the most notable, and if not one of the things that is still mentioned to date, is the 2007 Rugby Africa Truimph in Madagascar that you two gentlemen were fortunate to be a part of and played a big or an integral role in. Before we get into that, I wanted to understand, leading into 2007, I think I'll start with you, Allan, on this. Leading into 2007, there was a team that contested in 2003. So how did the journey begin from that point on of 2003? The team setting up and basically just getting into the stride of moving into 2007. Before we even get to the year 2007, how did that all begin for you?
Well, first of all, I first made my debut on the national team in 2000, and by then Brian was ready on the national team, surprisingly. And at that point in time, I think the national team actually started taking shape in 2000, because that was the first time we actually played outside East Africa, and we went to Douala. We first had a visiting camp in Zimbabwe, and it was an effort and a joint effort by very many friends of rugby. We went and spent a week in Zimbabwe where we played Mashonaland Country District. It was a provincial team on a Wednesday, and we managed to beat them. And then we played the Zimbabwe national team, and we got a hiding. That is when we realized that we are nowhere in rugby folklore on the continent. So But that trip also exposed us to so many things because we had never been driven in a coach before. We had never gotten VIP treatment before. We had never seen the sun rising at 5 a.m. in the morning. So I think that was really the start of a journey, letting us know that there's a bigger world out there than Uganda was. So I think the journey actually began in 2000, and it was a steady rise until 2002 when we won our first car. Then it was car 1B tournament when we beat Botswana here. The journey there has a few gaps which I'll allow Brian to really just punctuate it. But I think the journey began in 2000.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Brian, one of the things that I've noted that Allan said is he phoned you on the team. Maybe you can just, before we even get particular into that national team journey, how did you get to join the national team? And maybe if you're comfortable, you can tell us which particular years, and then maybe get into the part of the 2000 where he says that you ascended into winning the Tier 1B against Botswana before we build up to 2007.
Yeah, so thanks, Ruben. I think the first time I joined the national team was in the Safari Sevens. So it was on the seventh side in the late 90s, let's say. Some of us are dinosaurs, but I think that was 1999. So Safari Sevens, 1999, got into 2000, and that's when the 15 started getting a little more organized. And that's when we started our first journey of competition, as Allan notes. So, in my opinion, I think 2001, 2002 was the real turning point. Because I believe that team was together from 2001, and the bulk of that squad was together into 2007. So yeah, in between the exposure that we started getting, I remember in 2001 we played Kenya at home at Current Legends, and they had to only put in penalties to beat us. I mean, drop goals. It was literally Oscar Sir putting in drop goals, and we had only one try for the day, beat us by a few points, and we started believing in ourselves and telling ourselves, you know what, we can actually take it a notch further. We lost to Cameroon in Douala, came back, managed to beat them in Kampala, managed to win the Tier B tournament, as Allan notes.
Yeah.
And from then on, we never looked back. We started really believing in ourselves and saying, let's take on the next challenge.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Edwin, so just putting into perspective, when you think of 2007, what comes to your mind? The Rugby Africa Truimph and the Rugby Africa team, and also just in general. I know we were still very young to a certain extent. I should say not so young, but young, well, younger than the gentlemen we stayed with. But what comes into mind when you think of the 2007 Truimph, when you think of the 2007 team that conquered Africa?
Well, in regards to 2007, the first thing that comes in my mind was that win against, I think, Namibia. Was it 2019? Now, those days, we used to see rugby things in the newspapers, on the back page. So I think it was New Vision, no Monitor. They just put a picture, of Adrian Bukenya against Namibia. And they said Uganda 20, Namibia 19, something like that. So that's the major highlight I remember, because I think that was a group stage position where Uganda, I think, topped the group. I don't remember what the other team was. But even in my early episodes, I think, of the podcast, I told Herbert about a game I watched Uganda against Cameroon. So I think I watched the first leg at Legends, then the second leg is the one that I think the guys came up short on that. Yeah, so that's my first highlight of 2007. And then maybe across the discussion, I may come in with more what I can recall from there.
Yeah, so just to also put this across, one of the things that I've really noted is club rivalries have always been very fierce, especially in your Cobb, Heathens. How we see these days, we see a lot of players trying to, yes, the camaraderie is there, it's very good, but still there is that rivalry. I want to know if there were any challenges back in your time, building into that 2007 squad that they were trying to create between the egos and the superstars that were amongst that team, and how you guys were able to maneuver that. Maybe I'll start with you, Brian, on that.
I want to think camaraderie was quite strong for our team. And I've noted this before with the current or previous national squads, is that you don't see a tightly knit squad as it used to be before.
Okay.
And it was such that I would get on pitch and play against Allan if the Heathens Cobs. And when we get into the national team, we are shelling each other, we are laughing at dinner, the whole team is one. And if you don't see that off pitch, there's going to be, you're going to start seeing divisions and sects. There's that group, there's that clique. So, and for us, it was really one squad. We did things together, we had fun together, and I think that kept that team strong and made it do the things that they did on pitch, because we were really, really tightly knit. So I think it's very important for camaraderie to be within the team.
Was it just particularly that it was in your mindset, okay, now club is done, that it's now time for national team? Because, you know, those lines sometimes can be blurred, especially, let me say, if one, I don't know who was beating the other at that time. I know the Heathens were pretty dominant, but also the Cobs were forced to reckon. Sometimes those lines can tend to be blurred, where you know that I've lost to this guy, and probably we are fighting for the same position. So how did that, like you say, that tightly knit team come to be, where you guys reached the national team and you know that everything is now one? We are one. We have to gel. We have to be good.
I think it actually began from the leadership, because I'd like to say the late Edward Chitaka, as the Cobs team manager and coach then, would not stand the Heathens at all, and he would have all these thirsty things to say about Ian Walker, Andy the Greek. But when it switched to national team, he would then put on a different hat, and then it comes to Uganda. So I think it really, really began from the top. And I like to say from about 2002 up to 2004, then we were still on campus. That's majority of the bulk of the team. Gama, Chigude, we are still on campus then. After our games, Tolbert Onyango would actually cross from Chadondo, come and pick us up from Kampala Rugby Club and take us partying. Only because he associated with, rugby players, and we're young, energetic. We'll go with Nathan Wasolo, we'll go with Lucas Ocheng. So the older generation actually used to mix very, very well off the field. And I think we just picked and went on through that. And another thing that I see is a difference now is know your role on the team. I think it was very, very evident. Brian, you've been brought onto the team. You're the fullback. You're supposed to kick for posts, kick for distance, field, make the last tackle, and you'd want to be as perfect about it as possible. Deo Tumhaire was the smallest member of the team at that point in time, but he always got his lineouts right, and Rujumba and Gasso had no problem with it. Robert Seguya would run all over the field and he would berate everybody if you miss your tackle, if you do this and do that, but it came from a very, very good place. And one of the things that I think Ian Walker and Jerry Bali and Jim Middleton and Frank Ocheng, yes, taught us very early, you have to work hard as a team, and would get punished if one of our team members did not finish practice. So, yeah, it was not bad. We had sacks to carry, we had logs, we had poles, but once somebody doesn't finish the drills, the whole team, you go back until he can do.
Wow.
So we learned to pick each other up, and you can't be the bad apple all the time.
Yeah.
So we actually learned how to work together, and if you have this guy who's running too fast, and you have somebody who's slow, that's Fred or Makalam at the back. We would all intentionally slow down and come and finish with him because it's about finishing together. Yes, punish us for being slow, but we're going to finish together. So the camaraderie ended up building, and I think what we all ended up doing is we used to do a lot of work off the field, outside practice and outside the coaching time that would definitely show up, because, hey man, there was just not enough time to go through all the drills, and yet you had your fitness levels, not as much S&C as we had today, but you had your other skills to work on. So I think that really built. And once it comes to Uganda, it's Uganda. The pride in putting on that jersey was just too much for us to put egos in the middle. So I think we just grew up, but it really began from the top.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So prior to the tournament in 2007 in Madagascar, you had a camp in South Africa. Maybe you could just enlighten us on what the impact of that camp was to you guys, and maybe how it really conditioned you guys mentally, physically, emotionally into preparing for that.
I think before the camp is Chester Williams coming through in 2004. Yeah, Chester Williams coming through in 2004 and spending a lot of time with us. Now, he got us into a rugby structure which all of us knew plays. We actually had playbooks, which we had to go and memorize. He had drawn plays and different sections, so we had walked through the field and we knew exactly what it was that we were going to do at any one point in time. We had 3 different plays, and we would use them in different, and we all knew that. So by the time we got to the camp in 2007, we were very accustomed to how it was that we were going to play. And guess what? The South Africans then just simplified the game for us. They told us the little things: how to pass in small pockets, how to pass the ball very quickly, how to run with it in 2 hands, taught the scrum how to... The technique that Mobiru is using today is from Chili Boy, the Blue Bulls hooker. Taught him how to throw it right. Mobiru worked on it to perfection. We saw, I'll leave Brian to tell the Blue Mamba story because I might end up just taking all the juicy spots. But that camp was the first time we were out together for a long period of time, and we were working extremely hard because we had the morning jog, breakfast, morning session, lunch, chill a bit, afternoon session. And then the evening, we are in a room and we're going through the plays. So it was military kind of stuff.
Okay. And I think exactly what he mentioned is where we should start from. Is it the Blue Mamba story?
Yes.
Please enlighten, what is the Blue Mamba story?
The Blue Mamba, I mean, the fat boys knew that machine better, but we used to watch them at every session because we used to have our session. The pack used to also separate and have their own session. And there was this humongous scrummaging machine at the Blue Bulls pack. So the first time that the boys went out and gave it a go, you know, every time they went there, they would really try to shove it. It was really bouncing them back. And they were wondering, what machine is this? And they thought that they could scrummage. Here is a national team going to play an international tournament. Now, a few sessions later, so they kept giving it a go every time. And it got to a point where the technique was right, the gelling was right, and they started shoving this scrummaging machine. And that really psyched up the entire team, and everybody believed, you know what? We can really take on any team at this point. Yeah. There was a lot of direction from some big player names in South Africa coming in and guiding all of us. I mean, they were talking to the different individuals based on your specific roles on pitch. Yeah, so it really gave us confidence, and you start believing you can start doing some things. We really started improving. And as Allan mentioned, coming from Chester Williams' time, I think that's really where the right transformation happened. David Dobell, I think, found an almost finished package because Chester had really fine-tuned the team, and we were playing a very, very structured game that we had never played before. And when Allan says we had manuals of moves and plays, and I actually think if I went into my drawers, I'll find mine. It's got literally different plays and set pieces and what to do at different positions. You knew what to do at whatever position you were at on pitch. And of course, never took away the creativity of open play and if things changed. But we got to a place where, I know what to do. I know my role at this point. When it opens up after third, fourth phase, let's go with it. Play what's in front of us. So the team really got to improve a lot, both mentally, psychologically, physically. There were very new basic stretching techniques we had to get to learn during that trip, and the number of sessions. And I remember personally, I told myself after that session, I was like, I can never be a professional rugby player. I can't manage. I just couldn't manage the intensity of the constant training. You're doing early morning, you're doing late morning, you're doing afternoon, and I thought, no, this is not for me. So in my head, I told myself, if we win this thing, I am retiring. I'm not doing any more internationals. This was it. Because
15 years later.
Well, he was talking about the professional bit of it, but
Yes,
he has actually answered one of the questions that we already had, because he retired immediately after. He was like, I'm done, peace. Yeah, but before I bring Edwin in to just usher us into the part of when you guys landed in Madagascar and what's happening, I wanted to ask, we see, apart from recently we have had in the grapevine that the union had slightly stopped some of the national team culture in rookie rituals and all that. Did you guys have any things that you guys used to do, especially for those away trips with the rookies? What culture was within your squad, if you care to share? I'll start with you, Brian.
Absolutely. The rookies did all the donkey work. They carried all the kit. They put together all the balls for training sessions. They ensured everything gets on the bus to the pitch and back. We used to get them to come out and serve the management, like the team managers and the coach, come and... It was really fun tease, and everybody enjoyed it, but they had to do all the donkey work. Carry the stuff, ensure the kit is in, and as they get into the squad, and you say nothing, you can't complain, you cannot say but you do that, go and do it.
Was Allan a rookie at that time?
He clearly was a rookie at one point.
Allan looks like he was a very stubborn rookie, refusing to do what they're telling him to do.
I was lucky that by the time I was a rookie, we didn't really have many trips. That was 2000. We really started having the trips 2002, 2003, and then there were other rookies. I don't know if you guys ever saw Tensi. At the time when we went to Zimbabwe, Tensi was a rookie, and imagine we're age mates with him, and they're still younger people than him, but he had to do the bags.
Because he was
the bags, because you're the rookie, you have to do the bags, the kit bags, all our bags, put them on the trolleys. And Matayo in particular had this thing of rookies, you have to come to my room and pick my boots. So he would choose one rookie for the trip and say, you have to pick my training boots. And we also had this one, every hotel that we went to that had a pool, at the end of the games, that's after Saturday, as we're sharing to go for that dinner, you had to be thrown into the pool naked. So it is a rite of passage, and guess what? You're looking forward to the next rookie, and it was our way of showing that love. But guess what? Aside from all that bag carrying, we really used to unhold you, talk to you, and let you know that you're on this team because of your skills and nothing more. Yes, we have the joking side. Once you get into the field, if you're the rookie and you're scrum off and you're telling the forwards to move, they will move. So we separated all of this fanfare and all these jokes from what happens when you're on the field. And we had a very serious switch about it. Is when we're on the field, whatever the coach tells us to do, we will not die. Tell us to run 40 times. Hey guys, we're not going to die. And so we just kept on. So it was, once it's the field, it is serious. After the team talk, we can start joking around. But one of the things that also, one advantage that we had is timekeeping.
Yeah.
You would never be late for the bus. You would never be late for dinner, because all these things are timed. And maybe that's what Brian says, professional life is so boring, because dinner is going to be from 7 p.m. to 7:45. At 8:15, we have a video session. At 9 p.m., you're going to be sleeping. At 6, you're going to be up, morning run. So it is, you don't have a life until they tell you, okay, you have an afternoon of cooling down, you're going to go to the mall. Now, you would put on your sandals, and as a teen, some people would say, I don't want to walk to the mall, I'd rather stay in my room and sleep, which is fine, but everybody's accounted for. So I think it built a lot of structure into what we do. So if you're late, you know you're going to pay a fine and you'll have to carry the bags of the rookies, but that's because you're late.
Yeah, one of the things that Joachim Kisano, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, mentioned about his trip from France was breakfast time. It was very key to keep time there, because otherwise you'd find when the Senegalese have taken all the breakfast. Did you guys have any of those experiences in Madagascar?
Madagascar, yes, but it actually began earlier from Tunisia and all these trips. And you have, it's made a 7th trip, you're struggling with French bread and salads and greens. What we also learned is to carry our posho and our porridge. Yeah. That's one of the things that the first trip to Madagascar, I think 2004, did. The only thing that we could eat at that point in time was chips and chicken, because their rice had a funny smell. They had some funny peas that they were giving us. We didn't even try the beef. But so we actually lived through that tour on chicken and chips. So the next time that we went to 2007, we went stacked. We had our oats, we had our bushera, we had our flour for posho. So we were more ready. And one of the things that we did put, like you said, the Senegalese, once they come down for breakfast, they're going to finish everything. So we actually used to come down later, knowing that we're going to prepare our oats and whatever it is. And the TM then, he was Henry Musoke, used to go and buy extra bread. So we just knew that remove all the distractions. And one of the things that we went knowing is the beds are small, the hotel is crap, the food is going to be crap, but we're here to do a job. They would come late to pick you for practice sessions. They take you and you train in potato fields. Like everything, if it were, I think these days, guys would come back and complain how bad it was and things like that. But we knew we had a job to do, and whatever they threw at us, because I think the last training session that we were supposed to have before our semi-final, they came an hour late, which means they reduced our actual time. We didn't have enough time for recovery, but we said, guys, wherever they take us, and they took us to a mud field. It had humps and what, so we stayed in our sneakers, went through our plays, everybody was careful. By that point in time, we had too much adrenaline that what was a touch game at the beginning became holding, and before holding it became feeling each other, and but it was just the adrenaline that we had and the energy that we had. So Madagascar in itself is a hard place to go because of all the other conditions. The bed is squeaky, it is not, the TV you can't understand, it's in French, it is not clear, you can't understand what everybody's saying outside the hotel. It is full of street children who have, man. So if you look at that and it distracts you, it just takes you away from the game, though it had a very nice nightclub.
Okay, and at this point let me first bring in Edwin. Edwin, I think you just usher the gentleman into that period. Like you said, maybe I don't know if he has any more things to share about the nightlife and any other lifestyle things with Madagascar, and also going through the group stages up to the semi-finals.
Yeah, all I'll say is Blue Bulls Oye. Chili Boy Rapper. I don't know if you met Matfield or Locks got to meet Matfield or both at the time.
Maybe we didn't actually meet them per se, but the first time that our pack tried to hit the blue mamba, and it did move. We left saying, you know what, this thing can't move. About 30 minutes later, the Blue Bulls scrum came to practice. They stretched, did their warm-up, and crouch, pause, boom, the thing is moving. Boom, the thing is moving. Then they say, reset. Then they turn it, and they bring it back, and we're like, gosh, that machine can actually move. So it was a major victory when the forwards actually moved it. And the first thing they did is they moved it by about 5 inches. They got up, they looked at themselves, they smiled, they got down, and they started hitting. So by the time we left, we were actually moving it as quickly as the Bulls players were. And for us, that was a huge boost. The boost was so much that the first scrum that we got against Kenya, it was their ball. It was at their 22. And Allan Masiko was here hustling the scrum. Adrian told him, Allan, just go to the back. This is our ball. So the Kenyan scrum couldn't understand it. So the first time that we actually hit their pack, drove them over and turned over the ball. Adrian was picking and were flying at them. So they also didn't know what hit them. So every other time that we had a chance, call the scrum down. So it was a huge moral boost for us.
Wow. These are things you hear about and you wonder, okay, going forward. Now, so you get to South Africa, you get through your paces, interaction with the Blue Bulls, you interact with the Blue Mamba. Now, what we want to know is what is in your heads going forward. You beat a powerhouse in Namibia, you're now camped in South Africa, the big prize is on the line. Brian, in that scenario, what was the perception in the players' minds going forward? What were you telling each other to motivate yourselves before you could reach the big finale?
Yeah, by the time we were leaving South Africa, I think our minds were really, really aligned. And we knew there's work to do in Madagascar. And as Allan already noted, we knew all the challenges that we're going to face in Madagascar. And true to the word, we faced every single challenge there. Because we'd been there before, we knew all the issues. We knew, the Francophone countries are not very, very easy to live in when it comes to things like meals and communication and different challenges. But by the time we left South Africa heading to Antananarivo, we were really, really in one mindset, and we told ourselves, guys, this is something that we're going to have to achieve. There's nothing going to stop us, and we decided to say time to focus on the first game. We knew Kenya was going to be a big challenge because we knew what Kenya was at that time. We knew Madagascar would also be we're at home to Madagascar. It's a rugby mad country. So the crowds fill up stadiums, and it was something that was going to always be a huge task ahead of us. But the guys knew what we needed to achieve, and I think that's what it started the whole drive at that time.
So I know you have one of your teammates here was a back, but want to know who are the backs who played at that time. He mentioned Allan Masiko, but would want to get a view of those backs who you trained with and ran onto the field with on those 2 games against Kenya and Madagascar.
There was this fellow over here, Allan, Timothy Mudola, John Musoke, Tony Luja, Edmond Tumusime. Yeah, those were the guys that were on pitch and the back line.
Then there was Bonnie Moro.
Bonnie Moro as well.
Yeah, Bonnie Moro was running the blind wing, and the subs, we had Dennis Etiquette, because I remember he came on for me at some point in the final. So, but the starting line was Allan Masiko at 9, Edmond was at 10, Stone was at 12.
Not Saguya.
Huh?
Sogi. Isn't Sogi? No, Sogi was in the park.
Sogi was in the park. Stone was at 12, Timo was at 13, I was at 14, Brian was at fullback. Now Brian was switching with, when he was sub John Musoke, would go to fullback. And then on the blind side was Bonnie Moro. So
I remember he used to cut his hair like up to here, and he used to play for Rhinos. You used to play for Rhinos, right?
Yeah.
Don't ask me how old I am. I just know these things.
And low on skills, but his aggression was just on the end. And Chester Williams just looked at us and formulated plays that enhanced our being, because Bonnie Morrow had a move where it would come to Stone, and then Stone feigns a crash, Edmond feigns a loop, and then it's back into Bonnie. And he would hit that line with so much pace and aggression that he would get us forward so much of the time. He was a hard tackler because nobody would go that side. So when they come this side, they find myself. Brian was Mr. Sure Hands all through the entire tournament. So, like we said, we just clicked. And Edmond would fake the whole line and break through. And it was just, I think that Kenya team would they just had nothing on us.
Who played for Kenya at the time?
Just to remember a few guys of head, they had the late Ben Ayimba, who was anchoring at number 8. They had Lavin Asego. They had Tall, that was Kayange. They had 12. They had Sudi on one wing, Innocent Simiyu at the back. They had Chichwa playing somewhere inside there. He came and played
for on that pitch.
Eh?
Then he kept on.
Yes, Kipto was propping. So, and they had Otieno, who was a lock. They were. I can say they were really full.
Now that we're into Kenya, take us through that game. You mentioned the scrum. The mentor going into the game against Kenya. You know Kenya is our rival, derby rival. Getting to your paces as a team, and each individual player knowing the stakes are as high as the mountains. How did you get that into your heads stepping onto the pitch in Madagascar?
Yeah, pre-game tension can be really high, and I mean, you could feel it. I used to sometimes think it was with me only, but you could feel it. The night before, I mean, there's nervousness. You go to a training session, like Allan says, touch becomes contact, and before you know it, someone flares up, another one, everyone is itching to go. Game day, you probably have breakfast as the proper meal, because by the time it gets to lunchtime, you don't have appetite, just a butterflies, the mind is racing, the tension is really high. So by the time we get to the bus, it surprises me that sometimes I see squads with music, with phones, and they're chatting people, they're on social media, and they're heading to the grounds. It was something we couldn't do with our time, because the tension is really high. All you do is sit down, shut your eyes, and head out. You're already changed. You get into the stadium. So at that time, we're really in the main national stadium. There's a huge crowd. Yeah, a huge crowd. And then you go straight into the changing rooms. And at that point, that's where you realize, look, it's only us here. The 20-odd people, that's all we are. Out there is thousands of baying fans. There's another team you're going to be playing. So we really would come into a tight circle, and then Adrian as captain start taking us through the paces, and you look into each other's eyes and you see a team that's saying, you know what, we're going out there. So yeah.
Yeah, but everyone who has played rugby will always tell you the most important part is that kickoff. And now I can imagine back in the day, you guys had the IRB balls. So it's green and white. Then you see IRB, the guys bouncing it on the center line, and then kick off. Allan, what happened? Did you kick off, or Kenya kicked off?
I really can't pinpoint, because at that point in time, by the time you get to kick off, somehow as soon as the whistle goes, all the tension just evaporates and you just start playing. But one thing I remember is in that entire first half, Kenya had totally nothing on us. Kenya had no answers, and everybody was tackling for their lives. And normally Kenya brings, if you notice the rotation of their games, the first 15 minutes of each half, they are going out there to just blitz you. And we knew that. So those first 15 minutes, and I think we kicked off because our plan was kick it deep, let them kick back to us. Let's have the fast attack. So that is how we took the Kenyan game. We knew it would be a seesaw, but we had to weather that early storm because Kenyans throw the kitchen sink at you at the very, very beginning. After you weather that storm, then you start settling to the game, and then you'll get to halftime almost at parity. Then watch out for the beginning of the second half because they bring it. Something happens to them when they go to the changing rooms and they bring it again. This particular game, Chester Williams had broke it down so well that we had a minute by minute focus. We knew exactly what we were going to do at warm up. We knew how we were going to break up. We knew what we were going to do. All the way until putting on your jersey and out to the field for the national anthem. So even as we were doing our warm up, it was so much in unison that even the Kenyans stand and were shocked at what was happening, because we had to master our warm up routine. You're going to move from one drill to another. You're going to do this 10. You're going to do this. You're going to move the balls. You're going to split forwards and backs. So what you're going to do, you're going to come together. You're going to go through this one play. It was that choreographed, and that's why I think these teams are so perfect at what they do, because they go through that routine each and every day, and they tell you that this warm-up done right should get you good to go. So we actually said on the right page. Second half, Adrian twists his ankle, and your talisman, he has been punishing them on number 8 picks, has to go off. He's stretchered off almost, and we are like, wow, captain has gone. I think at that time we had a 10-point cushion, so we're like, gosh, this is going to be a very, very long day. Wow, we lived through that, and they managed to tear us through the backs, I think, once, and they scored a try, but the forwards, they had nothing on them because our mauls were so down to perfection that every time we got into the 22, we were almost counting points. And that is how well drilled we are. It's unfortunate now that even the strongest packs cannot score maul tries in the league, because at that point in time it was the strongest weapon, and it's very, very hard to stop once it gets going. So we had that, and we knew we had, once you get that platform, we are on. So the Kenya game was just one of those which goes through in a blur. In fact, I wish we could get that recording, because man, it's something that we need to sit down one of these anniversaries, just watch again. But we were that psyched that we are not going to allow. I actually broke this finger in that semi-final. I was grabbing a shirt, and you feel the snap, and then my hand started shaking. So I got the doc, and he says, I think you've broken a finger. I told him, boss, it's just a finger. Please tape these fingers together. Give me Brufen. It's my legs that the team needs right now. And I couldn't imagine getting off in the second half of that game and leave my colleagues to struggle for just a little finger. So it was after that, he started swelling and things like that. But during that time, as long as I can grab the rugby ball, let's go and play.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. And you mentioned one thing in particular, losing a talisman in that semi-final. Heading into a final, I've seen a picture. Actually, before I even go there, you had talked about the footage from those games. Is that footage still there anywhere?
I'm not sure.
I've never seen it.
Some of the people that will be watching this podcast can be able to go and release some of this glory.
Kasasa, or reach out to Madagascar.
Yeah, we shall see how best we can be able to get that footage, because that is very, very valuable footage. But there is a picture that I have seen that I saw some time back actually of that Madagascar stadium. It was like as if in a valley, and it was filled so much. But then even above it, there were households that looked like they were watching down. That is one of the biggest. Just from me looking at the picture, it looked so intimidating. you have lost a talisman in the semi-final. So how do you reorganize yourself and really get into that final against a home team, which is also very, very tricky. Keeping in mind that sometimes you may find there's this saying that they played their final in the semi-final. How did you guys organize yourselves to get ready for that final, and who in particular filled the shoes of Adrian Bukenya? Brian, maybe we can start with you on that.
Yeah, so when we had finished with the Kenya game, the new captain was Timothy Modola, because he was the vice at that time, and he's a more reserved guy compared to Adrian, but he is effective in leading the team. So we sat down, chatted about what's before us. We knew we were going to face Madagascar. At that time, the entire town knew we were playing Madagascar in the finals. So wherever you went, there were all these signs. Guys want to slaughter you there. Man, it was really scary. Where you're even wondering, should I even step out to go look for some? They are very beautiful art craft. So you'd wonder if it's safe to step out there. And the whole environment was very, very intimidating, that these guys might want to do something beyond the game, either before the game or after the game. But we used to sit in the hotel when we're like, you know what, this is final time, one more game, just one more game to win it. And Timothy took us through the paces. Of course, Adrian off pitch was also there with everybody. But then when it came to the game and it came to the final end of it, we knew we've got Timothy Modola is going to lead the squad. We're going to be behind him. We're going to get onto that pitch.
Okay.
And play a game.
Yeah, who slotted in at the number 8 position? Just to be clear, Adrian was playing 8, right?
Yeah.
Who slotted in that 8 position?
Number 8 now became Moses Soita.
Ah, okay.
So Soita and for the next, we played on Wednesday, and then the final was on Sunday. So for the next 3 days, Adrian kept in Soita's ear, just teaching him, just correcting him, and because he was that kind of player, everybody would just listen. So Soita, and one of the biggest things about a number 8 now is how wide you go when you pick up the ball. Adrian was so effective because he would evade the flanker and attack the fly half. That's where the first gap would actually come from. So Moses had to adjust his style for that. And surprisingly, we were totally dominant in that game. Madagascar could not touch our scrums. They could not stop our mauls at all. One of the things that David Dobella told us in that game is, if we give them a chance by dropping the ball in the backs, that's how they're going to run at you. Otherwise, first time tackles and let everybody else. They have a very good popping of the ball. They maintain continuity so much. So you have to ensure that all of them on the ground, so that there's nobody else to pop to. They liked dummies, and Chester told us, if you're dummied, you're going to get off my team, because you take out that man whether he has the ball or not. And that is how we actually built a very, very strong defensive line. And like I said, our lineouts were so effective that they even got to a point in time when the guys in the park were arguing about who was going to score the tries. Yeah, it was mad, because the ball goes up, it's picked. Dale, of course, was and Alex were the throwers then. But Alex would go and then say, you guys channel ball. Matthias has the ball with him, and he say, you guys just walk. So there's actually a joke that there was a mall where even Stone left the center and went and joined the mall, and then there's a fight because there's a mall that's actually contested between Matayo and Stone, and we never got the bottom of it, who actually scored the try. So our malls were so dominant that we kept on piling points, and that crowd actually became silent, because by first half I think we were up by 24-3 or something like that, and they hadn't crossed our line at all. So that was the pure dominance. And the one thing Adrian said when we go to the halftime huddle is, guys, we are starting this thing all over again. It is 0-0. So forget the 24. It is 0-0. We need to win this half as well, because they know they are very fit, and if you let that result sink into your heads, they can overrun you, because they had overrun us before. So that final was just huge. And I remember scoring a try. I dived, I leaped, then somebody came and fell on me, and I twisted my groin. And at that point in time, I failed to get up, and then Etiquette made his foray to the field. And 2 minutes later, he was complaining that they had scratched his eyes. So that's, I think I survived some eye gouging there.
Yeah, but it's something that's very interesting. When he talked about the pre to the final, where there were fans doing this, reminded me of a joke. I think it was by Ben Young's, in one of those trips to Wales, when England is going to play Wales, and he said that you could look outside the window from the bus, and he even saw a granny doing this, and the old man shivering that she was doing this. Like, that's how much those rivalries were. But yeah, what was the final score of that final game?
If I'm not mistaken, it was 40. It was either 45-9 or 45-12. They came nowhere close, and we were on so much of a roll that we're not going to give them anything. We saw gold, and we were just going to take it.
Yeah, that's a big wash for a team that's playing away from home. But anyway, now that the trophy has been lifted, how was the post-final situation, Brian? Where was there a chance to party? Was it so hostile that you guys had to first just leave immediately and come back to Uganda? Walk us through what happened in Madagascar from that point, and then also coming in Uganda. What happened?
Right after the game, it actually became tight because the fans got wild. They were very unhappy with the loss. We had to be escorted into the changing rooms. Yeah, we were told to actually hurry up and get back to the change. Of course, we had first been out on pitch and celebrated, but tensions started rising. And we were told to go and wait, because the bus was told, let's wait for things to come down, let fans get out. Yeah, otherwise, it looked like they were a threat to us at the time. So we were on pitch, of course, after the victory. We first enjoyed ourselves. There was the whole ceremony of lifting the trophy and everything. Afterwards, we were told, you know what, hold on. So when I think most of the fans had left is when we then got into the bus as well and headed out. Of course, the party became massive. Allan has already given you a hint of the nightclubs.
Indra.
We learned some language, a bit of lingo. Some things are X-filed, so
I understand. What was going on through my mind was, I wonder how you guys were socializing with the people you met in those nightclubs. Was it a matter of
it's very interesting, but I promise you can communicate anywhere in the world somehow. The basics can be communicated, so people manage to interact. You'd see exchanges of words between people who do not understand anything of the other's language, but somehow there was conversations going on. We had a real blast that night.
So the people in the nightclub were pretty cool as compared to the fans who were in the pitch?
Oh yeah, at least I personally didn't get any animosity when we were out there.
That's good.
Yeah, we're actually being told where are the nice spots, where to go to. Yeah, as I can say, the rest is
on the return to Uganda.
Well, we played Sunday. The flight out of Madagascar was on Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot of time.
Yeah, so you have no rugby, and we just started moving around the town. We discovered one spot that had a pool table, and you didn't need to pay. So we ended up playing a lot of pool around. We asked where the beaches are, and they told us the beaches are about 30-40 kilometers out of Antananarivo, so we never actually got to the tourist sites. So we would wake up in the morning, have our breakfast, go and play pool, drink, walk around. We actually visited the palace also in that time. So we had 2 whole days of doing nothing until Wednesday, when we're now tired of it. And I think we had some of our team members who got alcohol poisoning during that time. But it was they have the large bottles, the 750 ml. So when you're in the club, once you buy your bottle, because for us here, a bottle is a bottle. You get and it's mine. So a guy would come and bring his kata in a glass, and it became known that that bottle is not drunk by one person. So you share.
The Ugandans.
It was that is how their tradition is.
Yeah.
And not just the guys, even the ladies who were there. So it was just a good atmosphere. We actually gave them some of our CDs to play some of our music. So we ended up just assimilating. Remember that food is still work. So we'd look for chips and chicken in different places. And that's practically all we ate until we came back.
Wow, that's very interesting. But it's nice to see, and I'm sure some people are going to be shocked, wondering what CDs are.
Sorry, not
in an era of streaming music.
Yeah, compact discs. No. Probably they know it as other things.
Yeah, you'll probably be walking around with your Walkman.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of Googling going on. But anyway, as we come to the end of this, just to try and walk through the part where now you are back in Uganda, we see so much fuss about people receiving flowers these days and being picked up by their significant others from the airport. Was that what happened with you guys as well when you came back? Was there any heroes welcome? Was there any trophy parade? What happened?
Yeah, we were actually met by a huge number of fans.
You received flowers, Allan?
No, there were no flowers. There were no flowers in our time. But remember, we were in our kit, and we had a motorcade. We actually had a trophy parade, because from Entebbe Road, I remember went down to the park, Namirembe, like that, and we ended up in Parliament. So we didn't come straight home. We were actually received in the Parliament, and we officially handed over the trophy and things. So it was a nice come back home. We had a dinner there. We never went to State House though. We missed that chance, I think we need to go to State House as veterans.
You need to go. Class of 2007. You need to go to State House.
But we did have a nice dinner at the Parliament, and then because we'd been away 2 weeks. Remember, we had the 1 week trip in South Africa. We're all just itching to get back home. So after Parliament, we came to Chadondo. There were drinks. Yeah, there was a lot of beer, but all of us just went to scatter and go home, really. So
yeah, still drunk anyway. So
we we drank a lot. But the journey back was from Madagascar to Nairobi was about 2 hours. Then from Nairobi to here, it was a very, very short trip, and we just enjoyed the bus. We enjoyed the motorcade. I mean, we felt like we were actually true superstars at that point in time. We presented the trophy to Parliament, and we came back around club. So each year we actually commemorate that day. We meet up for a drink with different people, and we just sit back and talk about the times. Those who still have their medals, take a picture of them and share. I think I have mine somewhere in the house. So it's a huge, and that was the first time they actually gave out the national team kit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they did give us, it was a different ceremony where they actually handed over the kit that we played in, and we had a small badge there, car 2007 Africa Cup winners. So that is something that we normally hold dear.
And the names at the back.
And the names. Actually, Chinene did that. Chinene took all the shirts and did the branding for us for that. So it was, then we were saying, you know what, this kit's not going to be played again. Union, find money, buy more kit. This kit has done its work.
That's interesting. So before we let the gentleman go, Edwin, do you have any last questions, last submissions for the legends before us here?
Yeah, who missed graduation? There are some people who missed graduation. They missed being in the ivory tower tent or something like that.
I think that was Dennis Educate. If
There's
I'm not-
Alex Muviro as well.
Yes.
And probably, was it Wakabi? No, Wakabi wasn't there.
No, okay. Well,
No.
I think Dennis Educate and Alex, because it was during that time. But you couldn't miss such a trip because of that again. You imagine it was a huge honor to go and represent.
So it was honor over allowances, if I'm saying.
Well, at that point in time, by the way, I think we were given $100 as tour allowance, and then we had 150,000 for winning bonus for both games. And for us at that, it was never about the money really, but the fact that you won Africa champion, the money, and we used to tell guys, let's play and win again. Let's increase as opposed to not playing and not having it anyway. It's better you play, you win, and increase how much they owe you as opposed to not winning at all. So that's just really how we were. It's very different these days though.
Yeah. Maybe lastly, lessons for the current crop now, going forward with their journey to winning accolades of such a nature. What tidbits of advice would you give them?
I mean, the current national team has a lot that we didn't have. I mean, talk about strength and conditioning. There's advances in nutrition, in technique, in all spheres, and then they can only be better and a lot better. It's probably an area where I think they need to do a lot more to bond together. Yeah, so I still see fractures based on club lineages now a lot more than I don't remember ever seeing in our time that's a pirate, that's a Cobs or whatever. When national team, it was national team. So if we can have that broken down and everybody knows they're there to represent the country, I don't think they need to value putting on the national jersey a lot more than it is, than what I see. It looks to be casual. You know what? If they need me, they'll look for me. If, it's yet for us, we really yearned. And Allan is talking about $100 allowance for 2 weeks. I remember the Zimbabwe trip, we got $10. We were the happiest. It was not even about the money. Put that money in the bag and go out there for the experience and to represent the country. So I think it's really about they're a lot stronger now. They have capability to be stronger, faster, bigger than our times by comparison. They just need to get their mindset right, get the teamwork going, and know that when you're representing national team, it's a big job. You're representing 35 million odd people.
Yeah, that's great. Allan, do you have any submissions you'd like to add to that?
Oh yeah, the first I would like to tell this current crop of players is discipline, personal discipline. Before we went to Madagascar, we had been off alcohol for 2 months, and that is a collective effort from the team, and we are each other's keepers. It is 2 months. Get your alcohol and you drink all the alcohol you want. Like I told you, by the time we came back here, we didn't want any more because it is there. 2, work on your skills. If you're the hooker, be perfect. If you're the lock, have the strength and ability. Brian Makalama now tells you that there are some backs who lift more weights than props. Man, nobody would ever beat Brian Makalama and Fred Mudola in the gym, you get? Because that's their forte. So I think players need to invest a lot more time in building their personal skills. I don't see anybody practicing for posts. You don't see anybody practicing their passes. Whatever comes. They need to put in a lot more work off the training hours than they need to. That's the only way you're going to become better, because there's not enough time for training. And yeah, like Brian said, the camaraderie on the field. Yes, he's in Pirates for the club. Now I need him more because he's going to be next to me and he needs to make the tackle. So that encouragement. The club stays behind there. And lastly, game day. We used to switch off our phones at midday. There is nothing that you're going to do between midday and 4 p.m. at the kickoff that you need the distraction of your phone. Zone into your game. Think about your teammates. Talk to a colleague. Sit. Prepare yourself mentally, because going out there is very, very tough. You're going for battle. You should just be tuning your mind to victory only. So mobile phones, I think they just have to do without.
Maybe lastly for me, the basketball world, they have the second three-peat Bulls saying that they could tear apart Golden States. Now my question to you guys, your 2007 class, which is the best class after 2007? Let's say any class they bring to you, how is the match going to end?
I think very, very close. Let me just put it out there. That 2007 class, I think, is very indestructible. I think if you brought Namibia again in Antananarivo, this current Namibia squad now, I think we would actually take it down, because it was that well drilled. It was that well drilled, and everybody just knew what they were going to do. So I would say even bring Namibia on. If it was that team and this current Namibia squad which is going to the World Cup, I think we can actually take them on.
That's very, very big claim. I really wish there was a way we could have that match, but yeah.
First align the age.
Little bad.
Yeah, but anyway, it's been a really, really great conversation. Really great having you, Allan, having you, Brian. And as usual, we're always here at Fred and Winnie B&B. And the numbers will be in our details or running on the ad that you will be seeing, but you can always tell them that the Fat Cat sent you for a lot of great offers. Thank you for being on the Fat Cats podcast. Until next time. Cheers.